Hello everyone, this is Preheat. Let's talk about Evoker in 10.1 Embers of Neltharion. So Blizzard has actually released every single tier bonus that we're going to be getting. So we're just going to be talking about these today and what the impact is going to be. We've already been kind of discussing how Evoker is losing a lot of single target in 10.1 due to the talent rework, mainly in the form of, cooldown reduction that we're losing. So we're also losing effective Dragon Rage uptime, right? If you haven't already checked out my previous video on more information on that, I definitely recommend it. It's going to be up here on the info card if you want to check that out. But so if we scroll down here to Devastation Evoker, we can see that we actually have a pretty awesome tier bonus. So it says here that our 2-piece makes our Disintegrate and Pyre pierce enemies with obsidian shards, dealing 12% of the damage done as volcanic damage over 8 seconds. You can think of this as just like a 12% damage increase on Disintegrate and Pyre that obviously takes, some time to deal its damage, right? Like it isn't up front, but it should be just a rolling 8-second window from when the damage is dealt, kind of similar to how Renewing Blaze works with healing. And then we also have the 4-piece, which is Empower spells to deal 8% increased damage. So that's just 8% flat on your Empower spells, right? Fire Breath and Eternity Surge. That's going to be also a buff to Scintillation, we can probably assume. We also have this part. Cause the Obsidian Shards to become supercharged, dealing 200% more damage for 5 seconds. So that means for 5 seconds out of the 8 seconds, you're going to have a 300% damage on this. So instead of dealing 12% of the damage, it's going to deal 36%, right? And then we also have this part here. During Dragon Rage, shards are always supercharged. So what this means is that during Dragon Rage, we will have more damage coming from our Spender spells. And this also means that we just have more AoE burst, right? I know I keep talking about how AoE burst is going to be out of control. We already have such buffs coming to our AoE kit, right? With the new talent we have for Firestorm, but this is additional damage on top of that. So Lord help us, we will need something to do with the threat. Unless you have a warrior tank, if you have 4-piece and you're in your cooldowns, you're probably going to pull threat. Yeah, so this is a pretty awesome tier bonus, but I wanted to briefly give you some data on like how good this is. So this has actually been implemented in Sims. Gas Tank was able to implement our tier bonus, even though it's not available for testing in game. We do have it in simulations. And I prepared this sim for this video. So right here we have an Evoker in the patch who has no tier gear whatsoever, right? We have no current tier, we have no future tier. And going from there, one step up, if you have 4-piece of the current tier that's available right now, that's a 3.7% increase with the patch. And if you have just 2-piece from the new tier gear, that's going to be an increase of 5.1%. And then going up from there, we also have the tier 30 0-piece and the tier 29 2 plus 4-piece. This is effectively what your gear will look like whenever the patch first hits, okay? So if you're wondering what the damage decrease is going to be, all right, this is pretty much what we're looking at. It's about a decrease of about 10%, right? This is what we've been speculating. Keep in mind, this is without the staff, right? So I have the staff disabled in the sim. The reason why I've chosen to disable the staff in these sims, the ones for the PTR, is because we don't necessarily have another on use that we're going to be using once we get full gear. The staff will obviously still be used as long as we can, continue to use it. But swapping it back and forth is something that will incur an unhasted GCD. It's probably pretty bad to swap your weapon, especially in Lust, right? And, this is something that's not going to last, right? Maybe it'll be good for the beginning, right? Until you get a weapon upgrade. But you're very quickly going to outpace that weapon. So it's important that we look at how the spec is going to look once it actually gets its gear, okay? So just think about it in terms of the current patch versus what it will look like as soon as the patch hits. It's going to be about a 10% decrease. Now, if you have your 2-piece, right, still, but you actually gain the new 2-piece, your current tier, right, versus having the 2-piece combo is going to be a 1.2% increase. So it actually is worth it to upgrade your tier and break your 4-piece right away if you get that new 2-piece. And then from there, this is, by the way, this is before adding in the item level increase as well, which obviously is going to factor into. This is assuming that you have tier that's at the same item level as whatever tier you're currently wearing. In this case, it's going to be like 421, 424 tier. Okay, but anyways, moving on from there, we also have an increase of 5.7% over the current situation if you have your 4-piece of the tier 30. So just to give you an idea, right? So like if you go from having no tier whatsoever to having the new 4-piece, it's a 13.6% increase, okay? But if you currently have the tier and you're going from currently having this tier to the new 4-piece, that is a 5.7% increase because you already have that 7.5% increase, right? So all that's well and good, but what's this last one here? Live Devastation. Well, it turns out that no matter how you look at it, we're losing our damage in the patch, and we will need some single target tuning to bring our numbers up. because this is just a very wide gap, right? We're talking about the new tier bonus, which is going to give us the biggest increase of the entire patch, right? That we're going to be getting there. And we are still way lower damage than we were right now. So it turns out that the biggest damage increase for Evoker is getting a time machine to go back to 10.0. This is not great. I really hope that they do something to maybe fix our single target a bit, especially since they're removing staff, especially since they're making our single target in the talents just you know, much worse. So if you want more information from this sim, you can click this little link right here. I will be including the sim in the video description if you want to check it out. If you click full HTML and then you click the individual profiles, you can actually see what the tier bonuses it's wearing are, where the damage is coming from, and you can get an idea of what the profile is and even the talents that it is using. This is the current live one. Okay, and then if you want to see what the new stuff is, obviously click on those and you'll get that information here. So you can see that with this new one, the PTR setup, it is using Ever-Burning Flame with Hoarded Power, and there are some other talents in here that might actually surprise you just a little bit, like Imminent Destruction. And of course, the APL isn't entirely updated for everything new, but it definitely has some improvements. Now, I do think that this gap will probably shrink a little bit once we have like the APL working around the tier bonuses and also Imminent Destruction if we are running that in single target. So I'm sure this number will get smaller, but the gap is still quite large, right? This is a pretty big gap. So it's probably going to take more than just APL optimizations to make this number meet with where we are currently at, right? Because remember, this is like the new stuff, right? Like we shouldn't be dealing the same damage as we did previously, and especially not doing way less damage, right, than previously. So yeah, once again, just to drive the point home, in the patch, you are losing 10% of your damage, okay? If we account for staff, you're losing around 6 point something percent, something like that. But still, either way, you're losing a lot of damage in the patch. Our single target damage definitely needs some form of tuning, or else we're basically going to be relegated to a position kind of similar to Windwalker, where you do crazy AoE, you're a big AoE pumper, but you can't really perform well on bosses at all. And remember, this is using single target talents, right? This isn't even like the Mythic Plus setup, which is way more competitive now when it comes to points. So you will actually take a lot of your single target points out of the tree to put those into AoE for Mythic Plus. So, I mean, I think we can pretty much expect to do like tank damage, right? If things go live the way they are. So I'm really hoping that Blizzard kind of reevaluates their decisions with some of these talents. Hopefully we get some play there and some updates in this coming week. Kind of disappointed that we don't get to test the tier for this first batch of raid testing, but I will still be testing the bosses as Evoker. So if you want to check me out, go, you know, watch my stream. I'm going to be streaming tomorrow and also Friday for that raid testing. Of course, I'll be also uploading those VODs to YouTube as well. So anyways, that's it for today. I wanted to make this video short and sweet. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.